They think you just showed up, just appeared here, like some random face in the crowd, like you were a mistake, like your life's just some accident that slips through the cracks. But oh no, no, no. You were requested. You were begged for, not by people, not by parents, not by friends. No, someone higher. Someone who doesn't beg for much, but for you. They got on their knees, they pleaded, they said, send them now. This place needs chaos with a conscience. This world needs a mirror that talks back. And boom, you arrived. Covered in fire no one could see, with a purpose no one could understand. You were not born, you were sent. There's a difference, you know. People born just happen. Ordinary arrivals, names on paperwork, footprints on hospital paper. But sent ones? They come with thunder in their lungs and scars written in invisible ink. They don't crawl into life, they're dropped into it like a package marked urgent that no one knows how to open. From the moment they show up, the room tilts, the air changes, the lights flicker just a little. Not because they're loud or dangerous or strange, no, because they're needed, and that need makes people nervous. Do you think the fire you were born into was coincidence? The chaos, the silence, the way people failed you early, the way life gave you more weight than years? No accident. That's the trail smoke leaves when something chosen is dropped into a world that doesn't know what to do with it. You came wrapped in confusion, sure, but underneath, purpose. Deep, precise, ancient purpose. They thought you were just another soul trying to make it out alive. But the truth? You were part of the rescue plan. People love the idea of destiny until destiny actually shows up in sneakers, with pain in their past and defiance in their voice. They expect angels with wings and sermons in robes. What they get is you, someone who doesn't look holy but keeps surviving things that should have killed them. Someone who laughs with cracked teeth and still walks into burning rooms. Someone who keeps hearing you're different but never gets told why, because even they don't know what they're seeing. Not fully, they just know you don't fit. And people fear what doesn't fit. Being sent means you were needed before you were even named. Somewhere, somehow, something higher said, this world is missing something, it's out of balance, it's choking on lies. Send someone who can see without looking, feel without touching, speak without asking. And then, boom, you landed. No manual, no map. Just fire in your gut and a strange ache in your chest that never quite goes away. That ache, that's the echo of your assignment, a reminder that you're not just here to exist, you're here to interrupt. And boy, do you. You walk into places and suddenly people don't feel safe in their delusions anymore. Not because you attack, just because you are. You don't even have to speak. Your silence makes them itch, because there's something in you that sees straight through performance. You make them feel seen, not in the sweet Instagram coodle way, in the uncomfortable take off the Mac way. And that, my friend, is not something born. People do. That's something sent ones bring, a kind of sacred disruption, a divine inconvenience. That's why it's been hard, not because you're weak, but because the assignment was heavy, the kind of mission that breaks regular people, that crushes anyone not built to carry secrets and speak truth wrapped in madness. You weren't sent to be liked. You weren't sent to blend in. You were sent like a warning shot, a red flare in a dark sky. You're not the echo. You're the original sound, the kind that wakes the dead and pisses off the sleeping. You ever wonder why life keeps throwing punches, but somehow you keep getting up? It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's because you weren't sent here to stay down. You were sent here to interrupt cycles, to stop curses, to walk through fires and come out louder. You're not proof that life is fair. You're proof that life can be rewritten, that what was meant to break a person can build them instead. You're not the product of pain. You're the protest against it. But don't expect applause. Sent ones rarely get celebrated. They get questioned, judged, misunderstood, called too much, too intense, too sensitive. Because people don't like what they can't categorize. And you break categories. You weren't built to fit in their folders. You're a walking contradiction, a soul with battle scars who still believes in something bigger. And that belief, that wild, stubborn hope, that's dangerous, 'cause it's contagious. You walk into rooms carrying light people forgot they had. You were not born to just survive the storm. You are the storm that shifts atmospheres, the storm that rewrites the rules, the storm that reminds people they still have power. And the ones who sent you, they're not watching from a distance. They're in your breath, in your bones, in your rage, and your grace, and your voice when it shakes. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly who they were sending. You ever notice how the world pushes back the hardest when you finally start moving? Like clockwork. The moment you stand up, something tries to shove you down. The moment you speak, the volume around you rises. That's not bad luck, sweetheart. That's resistance. That's the signal. That's proof. Not that you're wrong, not that you're lost, but that you've been placed where your fire makes liars sweat and cowards stutter. Resistance only comes when something important is in motion. No one blocks a nobody. No one fights what doesn't threaten the system. You think the pain is punishment. You think the betrayal, the losses, the way everything seems harder for you than for everyone else is just some sick game? Nah, it's pressure. Pressure applied to the ones carrying something heavy, something holy. And pressure is personalized. It knows your weak spots. It knows your fears. It presses right there. But not to break you, no. See, if the darkness wanted you broken, it wouldn't be so loud. It's loud because it's scared. It's scared of what happens if you don't break. You've been dodging bullets. Life didn't even aim at anyone else. Rooms that turned cold the second you walked in. Smiles that soured the moment you spoke your truth. That wasn't coincidence. That was impact. You don't just enter a room, you shift it. And every shift disrupts something comfortable, something fragile, something fake. That's why the resistance is strong. Because your presence pulls masks off without asking. And people hate being seen when they didn't give you permission. But resistance isn't the enemy. It's the evidence. It's the cracked mirror that proves you've hit the nerve. You want a quiet life? Stay small, stay silent, say what they want to hear. But you want truth? You want legacy? You want to matter? Then get used to friction. Get used to doors slamming, phones going quiet, support disappearing like smoke. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. And what's right rarely feels warm at first. Being placed means the battlefield chose you. You didn't stumble into this life. You were assigned to it. The resistance, that's the landscape. That's the territory trying to keep its secrets. And your footsteps threaten that. You've got questions the world hopes you never ask. You've got insight that wasn't taught, it was given, downloaded, breathed into your bones by something higher. And that scares people because you didn't earn your wisdom through tradition. You earned it through fire, through loss, through surviving nights that should have ended you. You want to know why they come for you, why they poke and prod and gaslight and twist? Because something in you reflects what they buried. You carry a light that exposes rot. And even if you never speak a word, your being says, I know. And that knowing, that inner, holy, maddened knowing, it makes liars feel naked, makes manipulators feel clumsy, makes systems feel shaky. That's why the resistance won't stop. It can't, not as long as you're still moving. But maybe that's the point. Maybe you were never meant to walk a smooth road. Maybe the cracks and cliffs and storms were deliberate to shape your steps, to sharpen your voice, to force you into becoming what the world needed but never expected. You weren't placed into ease. You were placed into exposure, into tension, into a war disguised as a family, a job, a city. And yet here you are, still standing, still carrying something most people wouldn't survive a week holding. You weren't placed for applause. You weren't placed to be liked, followed, understood. You were placed because this world forgot something sacred, something raw, something real. And you were the only one wild enough, wounded enough, woken enough to carry it back. That's why the resistance never feels fair. Because you weren't placed in a fair fight. You were dropped in as a disruptor, a spark, a scream in a room that forgot how to feel. So when the resistance comes, and it will, don't fold. Don't question the placement. Don't apologize for the friction you cause. It's the echo of something ancient moving through you. It's proof that you're not walking blind. You're walking called. And called people always clash with comfort. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know you're close. You ever feel like you're carrying something too heavy for no reason? Like there's this invisible weight strapped to your chest and no one else seems to notice. You're walking around smiling, talking, nodding, pretending, but inside there's this ache, this throb, this constant drag, like you're pulling a body that isn't yours. And people look at you like you're overreacting, like you're too emotional, too intense, too much. But what they don't know is you've been trusted with something they couldn't survive 5 minutes holding. See, most people carry ego, image, applause. But you're carrying legacy, shift, the kind of truth that doesn't fit in polite conversation, the kind of fire that makes people sweat without turning on the heat. That's why it feels so damn heavy, because it's not just yours, it never was. You were handed a torch, quietly, secretly, maybe even painfully. Maybe it showed up as trauma, maybe it came wrapped in betrayal. Maybe it came in the form of abandonment, of loneliness, of being the only one in the room who saw the lie and couldn't unsee it. That wasn't a mistake. That was a handoff. Carrying weight you don't understand is one of the cruelest blessings, because the load comes first and the meaning comes later, and in between, doubt, darkness, rage, the kind of rage that doesn't explode, it festers, the kind that whispers, "Why me?" The kind that wakes you up at 2 a.m., not with nightmares, but with knowing you're different, knowing you're marked, and not in the pretty gold leaf destiny way. No, you're marked in a way that makes you question if you're cursed. But it's not a curse. It's a call. They trusted you, not the loud ones, not the polished ones, you with your cracked voice, your silent breakdowns, your history of being misunderstood. You who still walks into rooms with hope stitched to your sleeves. You who can hear lies in laughter and smell danger in smiles. You were given weight because they knew you wouldn't drop it. They knew you'd scream, sure, maybe even collapse. But you wouldn't let it go. You'd carry it through fire, through confusion, through the desert of self-doubt, and still manage to protect it like it was sacred. Because it is. You were given eyes that see too much, a heart that feels too deep, a spirit that doesn't quit. And that combination, it's dangerous. It makes you a threat in every system built on numbness. You don't belong in the shallow end, you never did. But they'll try to keep you there, tell you to quiet down, lighten up, be normal, blend in, because your weight reminds them of what they're not carrying. And people who refuse the call hate being around those who answered it. So they'll call you dramatic, sensitive, difficult. But what they really mean is, you make me uncomfortable because you don't let people sleep peacefully in their delusions. You show up with truth in your eyes and thunder in your bones. And even if you say nothing, your existence confronts. And confrontation, oh, they hate that. Especially when it comes from someone who looks like they shouldn't have survived what they've survived. You carry your story in silence, and it still screams. The weight isn't punishment, it's preparation for rooms you haven't walked into yet, for people you haven't met, for chains you're going to break just by showing up. You were given the load because you were built for it, and not in the "you're strong" motivational poster way. Built for it in the gritty, messy, back against the wall, cry in the shower way. Built for it in the "I don't know why I'm still going, but I am" kind of way. So if it's heavy good, that means it matters, that means it's real, that means you've been trusted with something other people run from, something their hands drop, but your soul holds tight. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're trusted. And trust like that, it's not handed out to the safest choice. It's handed to the one who can walk through hell and still sing lullabies to others when they get there. Is why it may easy sisters sing their, because that's the kind of carrier you are, a walking contradiction, a vessel of pain that still knows how to love, a soul shaped like a storm that still shows up soft when needed. You ever notice how your presence alone seems to shake the table? You don't even have to speak and already the air changes. That smirk of yours, the way you walk in like you don't buy what they're selling. It rattles people. It's not that you're loud. It's not that you're rude. It's that you don't play the game. And games? Oh, people love their little games. They love their false peace, their carefully constructed lies, their desperate need for noise. And then here you come with your eyes that see too deep, your vibe that doesn't bend, and suddenly their illusion starts to sweat. You disrupt things, even when you try not to. You were just born that way, weren't you? You walk into a room and secrets start leaking. Masks start slipping. People get uncomfortable, not because you're wrong, but because you're real. And real is a threat in a world addicted to pretense. Real is a problem for people who've built their identity on shallow foundations. You show up like a mirror that won't lie, and trust me, people will choose to break the mirror before they face their reflection. They don't hate you, not really. They hate what you activate. You ever wonder why people get defensive around you even when you haven't said a damn thing? Why suddenly folks who are laughing just go quiet when you enter? It's not paranoia, it's presence. Your presence reminds them of everything they've suppressed, everything they faked, everything they ran from. And that reminder, it burns. Because some people have made peace with their chains. And you walk in like a key they never asked for. You weren't designed to be background noise. You weren't built to blend in. And no matter how many times you tried to shrink yourself, to dim your light, to quiet your power, it never worked, did it? Because something in you refuses to die. No matter how many betrayals, how many disappointments, how many nights you screamed into your pillow with no one listening, still you rose. Still you carried something heavy, something unexplainable, something that refused to let you become like them, like the numb ones, the fake ones, the ones who forgot who they were. There's something about you they can't copy. They can imitate the look, the talk, the style, but not the substance, not the storm, not the strange electricity humming under your skin. That part, that can't be faked. That came from surviving. That came from sitting with your demons until you learn their names. That came from being crushed without being converted. And now you carry that energy, that raw, untamed, unfiltered frequency that makes even the most confident people second guess themselves when they stand next to you. So what do? They try to cut you down. Subtle at first, a backhanded compliment here, a sarcastic jab there. They question your decisions, your emotions, your sanity, not because you're wrong, but because you make them feel exposed. And people will do anything to avoid exposure, especially if it comes from someone who refuses to lie to themselves. You're not dangerous because you're violent. You're dangerous because you're honest. because you live out loud what they try to bury. But this isn't just personality, it's purpose. You weren't dropped into this world to make people comfortable. You were dropped like lightning, meant to shake the ground, meant to wake the sleepers, meant to burn through illusions and carve out new space. You've always known you didn't fit. The problem is, you thought that meant something was wrong with you. But what if the problem was the room? What if the box was never built to hold your kind of fire? You're not disruptive because you're broken. You're disruptive because you're true. And truth doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't apologize for how loud it gets when the lies won't stop. That's what you bring. That's what they feel. Not judgment, just truth. And it's wild and it's raw and it's relentless. And when you walk into a space with that truth strapped to your back, pretending becomes impossible. And that's why they flinch. That's why they whisper. That's why some run. Because you don't just show up, you shift everything. Do you ever get hurt and just sit there, staring at the wall, wondering what the hell that was all about? Not even angry, just numb, like your soul flinched but your face stayed still. Yeah, that kind of pain. The deep one, the one nobody sees, the one you carry like a ghost that only haunts you. But here's the thing nobody tells you about that kind of pain. It speaks. Not in words, not in advice, but in code, in patterns, in broken glass and burned bridges and sleepless nights that don't even bring clarity, just static. But static's still a signal, isn't it? Pain doesn't hit you for fun. It's not random. It's surgical. It's targeted. It knows exactly where you're fragile, where the scars are thin, where the cracks haven't healed right, and it goes in like a whisper with claws. But here's where the story twists. What if it's not there to destroy you? What if it's trying to teach you the language of yourself? What if that scream in your chest is the sound of your purpose banging on the walls, begging to be let out? See, people think pain is punishment. They think it's karma or bad luck or the universe just being a sick comedian. But maybe pain's not cruelty. Maybe pain's the only thing that still tells the truth when everything else is fake. You don't learn anything new in comfort. Comfort makes you slow, makes you blind, makes you soft in all the wrong places. But pain sharpens, pain clarifies, pain strips away the fluff and forces you to sit with your raw self. No masks, no applause, no filter, just you. Do you ever think about how every major shift in your life came right after you got hurt? Like clockwork. You lost someone and then you found something. You got betrayed and then you woke up. You hit bottom and then suddenly your eyes adjusted to the dark and saw what you were really made of. That's not coincidence. That's design. That's pain speaking in its native tongue. Transformation. And most people ignore the message because they can't stand the sound of it. But not you. You're still here. Which means you listened. The problem is, the world doesn't reward the ones who learn from pain, not at first. The world gives medals to the ones who pretend they're fine, who smile through the wreckage and post quotes about healing when their hands are still bleeding. But you didn't fake it. You didn't gloss over it. You sat with the storm. You shook hands with your shadow, and that makes you dangerous, because now your wisdom isn't borrowed, it's earned. And earned wisdom, that can't be debated, it just is. Pain made you an interpreter of vibes, of silences, of fake smiles, and real danger. You can walk into a room and feel what's unsaid before a single word hits the air. You can smell betrayal in a hug. You can taste manipulation and kindness. That's not paranoia. That's fluency. You learned a language no one volunteers to learn. And now you speak it without trying. That's the gift buried in the wound. The code written in fire. The instruction disguised as agony. And maybe that's what scares people. That you didn't just survive, you decoded. You didn't crawl out begging to go back. You crawled out different, sharper, quieter, louder in the places that matter. You can't be gaslit anymore, can you? Can't be guilted into silence, can't be shamed into obedience. Because pain broke the old you open and something ancient stepped out. Something that doesn't play by the old rules anymore. But there's a toll. Oh, there's always a toll. You lose softness. You lose some of that dreamy innocence that used to see the best in everyone. You gain clarity but lose comfort. You learn how to walk alone and still feel whole. That's the cost. But the trade? The trade is that now you move like someone who's been on the other side of the fire and came back carrying light. Not fake light. Not pretty light, real light, the kind that blinds lies and warms truth, and won't dim just to make others comfortable. And yeah, maybe some days it feels like too much, like your chest is still carrying echoes of screams no one heard. But that's part of it. That's how you know you're still receiving, still translating, still decoding. Because pain doesn't just stop, it evolves. And if you're paying attention, it becomes a guide, a weird, brutal, poetic guide that doesn't promise ease, but reveals everything they tried to hide from you. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Once you've heard the message, you can't pretend it was just noise.